You're listening to Level Up Your Business, the podcast where we talk to hardworking business owners and leaders and help them solve real issues in real time. I'm your host, Sarah Frasca, restaurant owner, keynote speaker, and business coach. I've spent my career not only in corporate America, but also as an entrepreneur, carrying on my family's legacy through my restaurant. Now, a business coach and consultant, I'm helping other businesses to use creative problem solving and innovative thinking to drive lasting change. Stay tuned to hear some inspiring guidance that will help you to level up your business.
Spectacular weather.
Isn't it beautiful? I know.
Yes.
It's like I always try to tell people, don't tell the secret that Ponte Vedra Beach is so beautiful. All right. Well, we're live. Thank you, Jack, for joining me today on the Level Up Your Business podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to it. Thanks.
Really an honor. We were just kind of chatting about the weather. I mean, we both live in the same community and we got to know each other years and years ago. So let's start with our connection. How fun that we are connected in more than one way and have known each other for a long time. But tell people a little bit about your background and just what you do and what you've done.
Yeah, so we've been in the Jacksonville area for 22, 23 years, and our corporate headquarters still are here. A company called Acosta Sales and Marketing. So we're an outsourced provider of sales and marketing services. And so I was with them for 25 plus years and retired a few years ago. And then how we got to know each other, of course, was primarily through your restaurant and coming in. And then once I got to know you, we started a program that was at Jacksonville University focused on consumer goods and services. You were kind enough to become part of our board and our advisory board that really helped us to develop that whole program. So then through JU and the CPG program, the Consumer Goods and Products program, and then just through the community and Trask has been kind enough to host some events for us, and it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's been so
real
fun.
Treat for me.
Oh, thank you, Jack. I mean, really, our families know each other now, and I always enjoy seeing your boys and their growing family. One of them, coming through, and it's pretty fun. It's an interesting, I would say, kind of small, large world of the CPG world. So consumer, I think the acronym, as I knew it, was consumer packaged goods. And essentially, when I shared with you that I came from General Mills and you were at Acosta, and, there's a lot of interconnectivity through the years of people that you've served, people that I've served, whether it's, the retailer or whether it's getting to know some of the manufacturers. And it's kind of funny that we, kind of grew up, if you will, in the same type of world. So that was pretty fun. And it was an honor also to be a part of kind of the helping students at JU, the College of Business, to understand the possible avenues for development and for career paths, amongst companies like Kimberly-Clark or a small organic brand or, very large international global CPG company. So pretty cool.
Yeah, you were a great fit on the advisory board for a couple of reasons. One of the things we wanted to do is, broaden the demographics, if you will, of the board. And so have people that have a retailer background, a distributor background, manufacturer background, food service background, as well as different roles within those, a marketing perspective or a sales perspective, a general management perspective. So have a fair amount of diversity of industry sectors as well as functional areas. And you were perfect. So not only do you have your new food service background, but also came from, one of the largest, most respected CPG manufacturers in the world. So it was you were perfect, a perfect fit, and a marketing background, and as an operator as well.
Yeah.
So again, when the kids get to see some broad avenues, as you said, for career pathing, and great careers in an industry that's going to be stable and growing forever. Anyway, so we really appreciate you being involved.
Well, I think you feel the same way as I do. I mean, if we can give back in the community, especially to the young, people who are interested. And, it was my first adjunct professor role. I don't know if you know this, but after I worked with, a whole semester with your team, with your class. And then I was able to hire one of your students as an intern. So that was a good experience. And then from there, I actually started working with Penn State. I've worked with a couple other colleges since then all over the country, just helping them to kind of understand different career paths, how to be innovative within this kind of industry. And anyway, that was really fun for me. So thank you again for the opportunity. So on the topic of your path, you have continued to evolve because you have just as much energy as I do. We're both blessed to be naturally caffeinated people. So, JU Board and Acosta were not the end of your career. So tell our listeners a little bit about that next evolution.
Yeah, so we've got a small, I would characterize it as a startup company that does visual product imaging, or as we call them, visual assets. So as most industries have pivoted very quickly over the last few years, particularly since the pandemic has really revolutionized e-com and the need for really great product representation and virtual interactivity, if you will, with your products that you purchase online. It really wasn't long ago, really before the pandemic, that most of the retail experience in most industries were, was mostly brick and mortar. I mean, you'd certainly look online and do your research and things like that, but it wasn't the majority of any of the industry verticals, right? And so they didn't have necessarily a sense of urgency on having great, product representation on e-com, whether it was their own site or whether it was an e-retailer. And then the pandemic changed everything. And so the need to be able to virtually interact with a product, to almost feel it, see it, touch it, and really experience it virtually has really ratcheted up. So that's what our company does. And so we do that as an outsourced provider, and we have very small companies, people that there's a woman in the community that makes, this custom made purses. And so she'll bring her new purses in when she makes them every, X number of months. But we have companies as large as Whole Foods. And so every new product that comes through Whole Foods, we image and we do their product dimensions and some other things. So that's what we do.
That's amazing. I obviously have a little bit more in-depth knowledge as to what these product images are all about. And so, I've shared with you, I was in this shopper marketing role for many years, probably about 9 years actually. And we had to give the retailers. So let's say I was working with Publix, who I actually supported, and Target and Walmart and Kroger and all sorts of grocers throughout the country. The one that I've shared with you before is my Super Value days, because it was not only corporate, but there were wholesale. There were something like 137 banners or names that they did business. So anyway, I would have to work with this person and get them the images that they needed, and this one. And imagine doing that 137 times, and everybody needed a little bit of a different format. And
exactly,
it was complicated. And so, sometimes there weren't images that were very good. They were outdated, or the packaging had changed. And so it was no longer representative of the product. And that would be, a pretty big problem in the manufacturing world, because you're really kind of held to very strict standards, et cetera. So I can commiserate with the process of getting these images. And so I think it's really amazing what you've done. I also think it's funny, when I think back to the pandemic, I actually just have my water bottle sitting here. It's empty, but in the store, you can see what the information is, right? And you can see how it and obviously not the water bottle is not as important, but see how it might relate to you. Does it fit inside your purse? Does it do whatever? Does it? And so now that you have these images, and I've seen the quality of images that you guys do with the 3D renderings and the ability, you can almost picture what it's like to hold it in your hand or to have it in your world physically. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's really, it's interesting. And when you held up the bottle, it, kind of reminded me, it's interesting how much, many companies, particularly those that are more sophisticated, how much they invest on their packaging. It's a real science to get the right colors, all the patterns, the fonts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever you're communicating on your package is really critical. And that's, if you will, for really the physical shelf. And yet, a lot of companies, and still do, they're not nearly as invested in their virtual shelf. And now there's almost more volume coming off their virtual shelf than their physical shelf. And how that product looks, that you've spent so much time and investment in the packaging, how it really looks in a virtual shelf is really important. And it's sometimes surprising how unprofessionally some companies approach their virtual shelf. After they've spent all that money on getting a great package, and then it really doesn't, it looks like it just looks bad in a digital world.
So tell me, and name names if you feel comfortable, but we talked about the amount of products out there. What are the products that you have currently or would be a good fit? I mean, it's not just food. So talk a little bit about that.
No, so we originally started in the food sector. And so that was our background. B, there was a specific problem that we were addressing. And so we started there. And then we have evolved to some different industry sectors. And also we've evolved from being focused on large retailers, distributors. I mentioned Whole Foods, that we do all the business for Whole Foods. And that kind of started before the pandemic. And because Whole Foods and the whole natural organic food sector had some issues with getting good imaging and getting good data and information from their vendors. So they became kind of the solution to get econ images. So in other words, they said, hey, listen, I can't trust you as a vendor to get me the images that I need. So consequently, I'm going to kind of force you to say, hey, I'm going to take on your items. I'm going to stock them in my store, and I'm also going to put them online. Just send me a case of your product, and then I'll get it imaged, and then I'll bill you back, and then we'll be done. But they've turned out, and we kind of first started our mentality, kind of pre-pandemic, if you will, was focused on, other Whole Foods analogs, what other big distributors, retailers, et cetera. But the pandemic changed the model very quickly. For one, everything was closed. So a lot of these imaging studios, closed up. And so and then the other thing that happened is most manufacturers started to launch their own sites. And so they needed their own images as well. And you indicated that with all the banners from SuperValu, and everybody wants a little bit of a different image rendering. I want it, from this angle, I want, these three, I want it spin, everybody wants maybe something different. But anyway, so what happened kind of during the pandemic is the big retailers and distributors and even e-com sites, the big e-retailers, basically pushed all of the imaging downstream to their manufacturers and said, hey, I'm not going to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. You got your own web. And manufacturers were, for all intents and purposes, saying that's fine, because actually I got my own site now, and this retailer wants it looking differently, and blah, blah, blah. And so consequently, everything the industry kind of flipped, and now everything is downstream and done by the manufacturers. So that's maybe a long way of saying that our customer base has really changed now, and it's all the manufacturers. And our sweet spot really is, because we're a high throughput, high volume, very efficient model, almost like a photography factory, if you will. Mm-hmm. our sweet spot is manufacturers that have lots of items, lots of SKUs, and a fairly robust set of new items coming through their pipe every year. So they need, we can obviously do small companies, and we do small companies that may introduce 5 new items a year. And that's fine, or 1 new item a year. And hey, I need you to do this item. Fine, we do. But our sweet spot is companies like Shimano Fishing, as an example. And Shimano Fishing has literally thousands and thousands of items, and every year they're updating their whether it's their apparel and their fishing vests and et cetera, or their rods and reels, or all of their. And so they're a really good example of a company that used to kind of do it on their own. And then when they discovered that there's an outsourced provider that can actually do it cheaper, better, faster, and is expert in it, they said, please take it all. And so we do. So that's kind of that really is our sweet spot. And then also for companies that have large, maybe not complicated, but challenging items. We do a company that does inflatable paddle boards, stand-up paddle boards. And so, not many organizations have the ability to get that kind of size items. And we do a lot of HVAC equipment. So really large, compressors and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So again, we have that kind of broad capability. And so those are the kind of companies that are more of our sweet spot, larger organizations, as opposed to, your Etsy producer that's going to, have a handful of items on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So where are you headed? I'm just curious. Yeah. And we should say the name of the business that you are involved in, which is PV Studios.
PVS, yes.
PVS Studios.
Pro Visual Solutions was what it kind of stands for. PVS, yeah.
Okay, PVS. All right. So tell me kind of, as you look at the future, and this is one of the things that, at Point Northeast, we really work with our clients on is, setting that vision point. And sometimes I describe it as kind of like a lighthouse on the horizon. It's a beacon of light. And if everything goes well, you can get to it. And so maybe it's a 3-year, maybe it's 5-year, what does that lighthouse look like for PVS?
Well, it's fairly ambitious.
Good.
I'm convinced that somebody will get there. And candidly, we're one of the larger scale providers in our industry right now, if not really the largest. And it's that much of a kind of a startup business. But our vision and our belief is that this will be an ADP type of business at some point. Now, not as large as ADP.
Yeah.
But we use payroll processing as our analog. So the notion that, it wasn't that long ago that every organization did their own payroll.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to do payroll. I mean, you've probably got a financial staff that writes checks. You certainly have to pay your customers and your vendors and everybody else, not customers but vendors. Mm-hmm. And so writing checks and paying your own people was not that hard. And if you didn't do it yourself, you may have used a local CPA or accounting firm in your market that was a highly fragmented kind of. I just used the local accountant down the road to do our payroll. And that wasn't that long ago. And then ADP and now all their competitors have completely automated and changed that space, disrupted that space. And now really nobody does their own payroll. I mean, even my brother, who had a small, like a 5-person business, he didn't do his own payroll. He had ADP or one of their competitors was doing it. So anyway, that is what we believe. We believe that this is an industry where there are literally millions and millions and millions of new items that are produced every single year. It is new items, as you well know from your background with General Mills. But for most industries, new item is the lifeblood of their growth. If you're not innovating, if you're not creating new items, you're stagnant, and you're gonna lose. So anyway, new items are coming with just rapid succession in every industry vertical, and every time there's a new item produced in any space, including when you have a menu change, you need and want an image of that product. And there's no reason why you should be doing that internally. You don't want to have to hire a photographer when you're a restaurateur or you make stand-up paddle boards. I don't want the hardware. I don't want the software. I don't want to hire. There's no reason why you should ever do your own product images. But because our industry is so kind of new and it really was no large scale providers, a lot of people are doing it themselves because, well, geez, they didn't, when they find out that we're there, they go, oh gosh, I wish I knew about you. I bought some equipment, I bought some hardware, I bought some software. I try to hire somebody or make somebody that's in my marketing group take the photos, and it's a disaster. And now the person that takes the picture in their marketing department never ever thinks it's a disaster. Oh, we got this. It's good. But the reality is it is a disaster, and it's not core to you process and so forth. So That's a long way of saying that we believe that that eventually everybody will outsource their visual images, because the other thing that we believe is a tailwind for us in our industry, our small nascent industry, is that consumers will demand better and better. We already are product interactivity online. And so, if it wasn't long ago when you were content when you had like a grainy image of something you wanted to buy online. And now you want to be able to zoom, you want to be able to spin it, you want to see a lot of things. Like our stand-up paddleboard company, as an example, we're doing like Giphies, like really quick, that shows how do I put this paddleboard together? I get it, I take it out of the box. And okay, how do I inflate it? Where is that? Where does this go? Where does that piece go? And so you're going to want more and more, or the consumers will demand better imaging or visuals to go with their to understand their products. So that becomes that much more expensive and complicated for a business to do. And again, why do I want to do that? Oh gosh, I need a videographer, I need a photographer, I need to do all the photo post processing to cut out glare and all that nonsense. And I just, why? So that's why we believe, again, it's fairly ambitious, but we believe that this will be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be one of the large players in that space as it evolves. Amazing. So that's our kind of our why we believe it's possible.
Yes.
And also what we aspire kind of to be.
That's great. I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking about the olden days of when you would find out what the new products were, via a catalog, whether it was like a JCPenney's or Kohl's or whatever. Or if you were looking, for what you were going to feed your family this week, you would look in the Sunday paper and get the FSI circular that had the coupons and the pictures and all those sorts of things, or the what's on sale or deal at your grocer. I mean, the amount of importance on the images, because people eat with their eyes. I mean, they are, they're seeing it, or they're purchasing with their eyes. They want to know what the color is and how does it fit, or what does it look like, or and so anyways, I think it's incredibly important. I think about also all of the restaurants out there, and as you know from Trasca, that was one of my biggest, well, maybe not biggest, but it was a very important component of what I wanted to do, because I grew up at General Mills where they had a photography studio. I mean, I literally would create photo shoots, and I would be down there, and they would be, I used to make fun of the team, but it was like they moved the blueberry, because for the blueberry muffin, it had to look a certain way, and they would be, photographing it and looking at a computer screen and moving something. But they made beautiful photography that was mouthwatering, that made people want to buy it, which again, people buy with their eyes. So when I did the restaurant, I knew that I needed to have better than average photography, and your team came out and did all the photography that we use on our website right now, and in our menus and online ordering. And I think it's a bit of a game changer, Jack, because I think, if you think about your local, I make no assumptions on what's out there in the world, but when I can think of like, a Mexican restaurant menu or a sushi restaurant menu or an Italian restaurant menu, like the photography does not look great.
No, I think, you're so right, and your photography looks great, and it's great. You need somebody that actually knows what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
But the matters most is the strategy, and that was you. You're like, hey, this is what I want, and I want it to look really good, and I want it. So it's almost like the ad agency is there's two components to marketing, to product imaging, if you will, or to marketing a product. And what we do is the mundane, boring, all right, just take a picture of the product. The important stuff is like, how do you, the person that's out there casting the pole and the beautiful scene on the boat in the ocean. And that's that's who I want to be. And then looking at the picture of the rod underneath is like, it needs to look great. I need to be able to see it, visualize it, and I need to be able to do all that. But the ad agency and the company, that's what they want to focus on. I want to create the image that these people want to be. And the same thing is true with the food. You decide, here's how I want it to look. And then, all right, you guys come in here and make sure it looks phenomenally good.
Yes.
And we can do that. But that was your vision. And you did it so well, because we all shop for our food too online, right? Hey, what do you want to take out tonight, as opposed to where do you want to go? At least that's us. And you look at some of those images and it's like, oh, that looks terrible. I'm not going to order that.
It might be delicious, but it looks awful on their menu or on their site. Yeah. I was just thinking, and this is kind of to the growth idea here of, the original value that you folks did for the natural and organic channel is that those consumers were very particular. They wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what ingredient, or that it was gluten-free, or that it was, whatever the case is. And so your images were able to help them know that. In my case, people, at the restaurant, people need to know that, it's delectable. It's such a beautiful presentation showcasing each individual item that they know what they're going to bite into. I was thinking of, some of the other industries that you service, like the fishing rods or the fishing equipment. And just, it's the key differentiator of whatever product you are, whatever you have, showcasing that key differentiator. So if it's a rod and reel, it's the ease of which it spins, or the softness. Yes. And so again, those are things that are not that easy to showcase in a photograph, but are extremely compelling, or the difference maker for the person who's making the purchase.
Yes.
And so, not just any grainy image is going to show how soft the rod.
Right.
This is not my genre. This would be for somebody else who's an actual fisher person. But if it's a piece of plumbing, how does the oil? Again, these are not my spaces, but yeah. So that's really, really fantastic. Yes, or the way that it fits onto something. Again, I don't know, but I'm thinking, like, how does my hand fit on there? Those are important components to people.
It's really important. And that's really what's that?
Well, this is another Ponte Vedra business. I just recognized that. It's Natural Life.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so there you go. So PVS.
They do a great job.
Yes, they do. But it's a really interesting component. So as you dig into the different industries, kind of getting the strategy of what is it that makes people buy them, and that's what you're showcasing in your photographs.
Yes. Yes.
So cool. So cool.
So that's what we're doing, and we're excited about our trajectory. It's just slower than we'd like it to be. That's all.
I have only scratched the surface, because if I had to guess, is it all U.S. companies at this point? Any global? Okay.
No, at this point, at this point, yes, it is U.S. Based companies. but we
I know who you should go after next, and that's IKEA. Can you imagine how helpful it would be if you had a Giphy of putting together the cupboard or whatever?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, we'll have to work on that because that would help me personally. So, I guess this is kind of off the top of your head here, but what keeps you up at night? What are the biggest challenges? What are the things that are on your mind that maybe I could help you brainstorm in the moment to see if we can't get PVS really humming?
Yeah. So the first, actually the first thing that actually does keep me up at night is capital, right? So any small business needs capital.
Yes. Okay.
And so that's been a challenge for us. We haven't necessarily wanted to go to venture companies at this point, so we're mostly raised capital through friends and family. And the good news about our business, as I've kind of mentioned before, is we're a scale provider, so we can be large enough to do all of Whole Foods and some of these big companies that have lots of items and so forth. The bad news is we're a scale provider. So that means that our cost structure is higher. I mean, our footprint of our kind of our factory, if you will, the equipment, the licenses, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, so it costs and we've cut our cost structure as tightly as we possibly can, but our cost structure is still higher than our current revenue. So we've been, so the board and friends and family have been the capital behind the business. But so what keeps us up at night? That is the main thing. Having enough capital to get through, because we are confident. Hey, check it out! I just got an email. Traskett Company and Eatery. So
what do they want from you?
Market, that's outstanding. It's just flew across my screen. How ironic! But, I'm sure I'll get a text here soon from
Good.
But anyway, so that's the good news, bad news, right? And so we believe that we're a few quarters away, probably end of this calendar year, where our revenue and our volume will surpass our burn rate. So, but until then, you ask what keeps you up at night. It's having enough capital, because I mean that's eventually what really kills most small businesses is they just don't have the capital to keep on going.
That's right.
They run out of capital, and so that's the number one thing that keeps me up at night, if you will. Yep.
So what is the capacity? I'm picturing, and I've not been to the facility, but what are you operating at in terms of capacity right now? Like, is part of it like you need to get the word out there? So you've got the people, you've got the equipment. Now you just need the volume to come through of customers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
More and more customers to be on. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah. That's yeah. And what we do, the way we operate it now, is we kind of operate it as the minimum kind of ongoing velocity.
Yep.
So with full-time staff, and then we staff up with contract labor. So as we get more volume in, or as we have, this business is and we don't have that much predictability of what's coming in, right? Whole Foods, they don't necessarily have the predictability of who has how many new items and when they're coming in. So our volume is peaks and valleys, and so we staff to the valley, and then as the peaks come in, we'll staff up. But meanwhile, you have things like you have your licenses for all of our equipment and things like that, and those are fixed costs, and so we can ramp a ton of volume on top of the equipment that we own and on top of the licenses that we have. And so our marginal costs are relatively low, but we just need that additional volume. Yep. So our scalability is very attractive, but that's one of the reasons why. So we're just get to that kind of minimal amount, and then we can, we'll as we scale, it'll be a profitable scaling.
Yep. Okay. Do you have a person in charge of sales and marketing right now?
We do.
Okay.
He's called the CEO.
Oh, okay. Very good.
We do.
All
We
right.
actually, and that's, and that's part of the issue with a small company, right? Is
Yeah.
you just don't have a ton of bandwidth. And
Okay.
actually, what we have discovered, Sarah, and this may be more nuanced than you want to know at this time, but what we've discovered is that it takes relationship to sell to a certain extent in our industry. So we have our customer acquisition strategies. We have actually several different funnels, if you will, for a customer attraction. But one funnel is simple search, as I kind of mentioned to you before.
Yes.
But search marketing can kind of being at the point of opportunity when the opportunity presents itself. I mean,
Right.
You can talk to somebody all day. You can go to a trade show. You can go to the fishing expo and talk to 100 different companies or any others. You can go up and down the street and they're like, thanks very much, talk to the hand. And then when they have a problem and they need something, then they go, who was that came by? And who was that that I met? But at the point when they don't have a need, they're just not going to buy. So anyway, search is an important component of customer acquisition because I have a need. I'm searching for a solution, and then these folks pop up. And
Right.
Okay, great. One of the other ways I think I mentioned to you is that we have gone to a number of industry trade shows where we identify the kind of the need at high velocity items in the industry, a lot of new items. Imaging is kind of all over the board. And so we'll go to an industry conference, let's call it the fishing show in Orlando. That's this massive show. And you'll go up and down the floor and they're like, I'm busy. What do you do? Okay, very interesting. Go away. But as soon as so having a salesperson wouldn't, we've discovered is not necessarily highly effective or doesn't return.
Right.
However, what we have discovered is we use sales agencies that are aligned to that space.
Yeah.
So a company that represents, hundreds of manufacturers, a little bit like what Acosta did.
Yeah.
Right. So, but they exist in most industry verticals, and we work with one that's in the fishing and hunting and outdoor sports vertical. And when we walk the same trade show with them, we can talk to anybody now. They know them all. They know the decision maker. They can get to the decision maker and say, oh, by the way,
Great.
you need to talk to these people because your images are lousy and your competitor looks like so. And have you ever really looked at your images and you are bypassing or missing out on significant e-com volume because you're not maximizing, hey, the reality is that, this I think is I think we all kind of recognize this, but the data says it. The number one reason why people click off of or leave a website, other than if there's a technical glitch with the website, is if the images and the visuals are not good. So we shop, as you said earlier, you eat with your eyes, you shop with your eyes first. I look at the images, then I'll read all the descriptors, then I'll read all the information. So if I can't see it, I'm out. And so anyway, it takes someone that has the relationship and also knows who the decision maker is to say, by the way, your images suck and you need to fix them and you need to do something. And, when we walk that same trade show, they're like, talk to the hand, go away. Anyway, so that's what we've discovered. And so our sales strategy, that particular part of our customer acquisition strategy is via sales agencies.
Okay, that makes
get to the decision makers, and so we have a handful of them in different industry verticals.
That's
and
great.
We need more. We need more, and we want more, and so that's part of our growth.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I like that. It kind of feels like the cold introduction isn't necessarily.
No.
it wouldn't yield the same as a relationship. Yeah. Or like you said, the search of I've got an issue and I'm looking for someone to scratch the itch.
Yeah.
That's great. I think, it's a service. And so you're in the same camp as a lot of professional service organizations where it's like, I don't need an attorney until I need an attorney. I don't need, so that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, the capital piece, I mean, unless you wanted to go out and find the venture capitalists and I think that's interesting. Of course, there's other routes like crowdsourcing and things, of that nature. I'm curious, do you do a flat fee for your customers? Like, can they sign up and have, is it a certain amount and we do everything for you all year, or is it per item or?
Yeah, we can do both. It's for the most part, it's on a per item basis. And so we've tried that. And again, this is part of the evolution of our pricing model also, is what we've discovered is that it's just like so unique. Everybody needs something a little different.
Right.
And they may need something a little different based on their customers. Hey, Amazon wants this. And I'm part of, I don't know, let's use fishing as an example, but it could be any number of things like, all right, so, what's the big fishing retailer? Bass Pro Shops. Bass Pro Shops wants it like this. And, so-and-so wants it like this. And so I need, and then, so what their needs are is very different. I mean, and they also don't necessarily know how many new items they're going to have and when they're going to come out and so forth. So we're able to do pricing models like you've described, but for the most part, they'll pick a range. They'll say, all right, here's kind of the package that I want for every item. I want, for these kinds of items, I want spins and stills and so forth. For these types of items, I want my apparel. I want them with a mannequin. And for my hats, I want this. And then so we create some, so we can customize for them. And then from then on, it's simple, but that's what we generally, I think I described, we're doing all the Venus swimwear. And so they want, all right, I want the lay flats, where I can just, and then I want on mannequin, maybe on model, blah, blah, blah. There's a number of things. And I want, for some types of apparel, I need this. And for some types of apparel, I need that.
Right. Apparel is an industry that I would think, I mean, again, people are so particular. How does the fabric, what's the fit on the shoulders or whatever? I can imagine, the photography is an incredibly important aspect. So,
and you can do more now. Like, for example, we've got one company that they do like hunting apparel. And they have what we refer to as hotspots. So you can zoom in to, so you can see the zippers and you can really see how the vents work and things. But also like one where you can zoom in and you actually see the fabric, what it's made of. So, even better than like if you're touching and feeling it, you can see, all right, that's how the fabric is made or what's the density and the way that it's, kind of manufactured. So stuff like that,
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Okay. Well, I mean, gosh, I think it's a really exciting time and I'm hopeful. I mean, I'll obviously stay very close to kind of following the progress, but you'll have to keep me posted. And I actually wrote down a handful of people that I think could benefit from this, kind of in the CPG world, different products that I have, some close friends and family that represent these businesses. And I mean, my gears were turning as you were talking. I wonder if
I'm all ears. So
there you go. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, Jack, I mean, honestly, it's really fun to kind of you get your hands in so many different things, and I know how connected you are in the community to helping folks, and I hope I will always help you no matter the topic, and
you always
really
do. Thank you.
and you for us and me. But I'm going to keep thinking, and I'm excited to watch PVS grow and scale and become what I know it can be. So thank you for sharing your journey with me.
Well, thank you. I'm always excited about your journey as well. I've been fun to follow Traska and your new growth strategy in the past, your previous ones, your current one, so as well as Point Northeast, and so I'm really excited about that. And thanks, thanks for having me. And I appreciate any ideas you have. I'm all ears. You always have great ideas.
And our listeners may have some ideas as well. Hey, that actually, I almost forgot. Tell us how we can find you. Tell us how we can come in contact with your company. So if people are looking for photography, they'll know where to go.
Yeah, so they can find us online at pvsstudios.com, and that's they should be able to find us. And it gives that's another, as a small company, I know our website isn't as good as it could be, and we've really tried to improve it. And so we have a lot of different types of images, and it gives you an idea of like, oh, okay, I'd like that's interesting. I need my product really could benefit by that kind of a look. You mentioned before, you were talking about rods and reels and how soft they are, but other things, how apparel is done or how something else is done, or like, oh yeah, that would be a cool way to show how I put something together once I receive it in the box. So so we got a lot of that stuff on our website, at pvsstudios.com. And but one of the things that we also do for all of our potential clients or customers is we'll give them some free sample. So all right, send us a couple products, and we'll do some imaging for you, and then shoot it back to you, and then we can talk and
that's great.
Free, and then we can discuss exactly what you need. And the people that we do have salespeople that once you come in, like, all right, help them think about what ways they could better represent their products online. Have you thought about this? We can do that. Have you thought about that? Or here's an example of a company and this is what they did. And, or what do you have in mind? So, so we customer service sales, if you will.
That's great. I mean, that's a really, really nice offer and a good way for them to get to know PVS Studios. Yeah. I just thought of something, and this is not now, but what if Traska ends up shipping frozen paninos in the future?
Oh, I like that.
What do you think about that? You guys, you could photograph, how it looks when it arrives, and the steps, and then the eating.
And when you get those frozen paninos, I'm sure Whole Foods will stock them. And
there you go.
Whole Foods will make you use us. So we'd we'd love to do that. And then we do your merch. So, all your T-shirts and your hats and all that kind of stuff. So,
Great. Well, thank you again for being a part of the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I'll be sending some folks to you. I know a couple off the top of my head, and I'll obviously keep thinking too. But if you need anything, you let me know.
Well, thank you. I as you know, I do. And vice versa. Yes. Please, anytime. And I'm just glad to be part of it. And if I can help in any other way, or help any of the people on your podcast, let me know.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Have a great afternoon. Thanks everybody for listening and being a part of it. I hope you also have a good afternoon, and see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, Jack.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Level Up Your Business with me, Sarah Frasca. If you have a problem in your business that's keeping you up at night, please join us in a future episode so we can help get you unstuck. Just click in the link in the show notes and send us a message. Please remember, stay innovative, friends.